Hey, London, how you feel out there? This is a fancy literary event. Come on, you can be a lot more rowdy than that. How you feel out there? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Welcome to the 11th Creative Future Writers Award Showcase. We have a really great lineup tonight to celebrate 15 talented writers who I'm sure you're going to hear a lot more from in the future. Tonight is a culmination of a year-long project which could only have happened with the support of many people, and unfortunately I don't have time to thank them all. I would, however, like to thank our funders, Arts Council England and the Amazon Literary Partnership, and all of our many, many amazing prize givers who were really so very generous that this year we were able to increase the number of winners from 12 to 15. I'd also like to really thank our judges, Nina Mingyap Powells and Wayne Holloway Smith, along with Joey Connolly from Faber Academy, Tessa Foley from Poetry School, Jennifer Kerslake from Curtis Brown Creative, and Aki Schultz from Literary Consultancy. It's also an honor once again to hold the showcase here in the fabulous South Bank Centre as part of the London Literature Festival. Finally, and not at all least, I'd like to thank all 1,600 people who entered the awards competition this year. Having read all the entries, I can only say how gratified we were and how much pleasure it was to read all of your work. Creative Future and the Writers Award were established because the literary world can seem the preserve of the privileged, and getting your foot in the door can seem more difficult than ever. And despite that, we're very proud that a third of our winners have gone on to publish books, and I'm sure there's going to be more coming in the future. At Creative Future, we strongly believe that if the world of literature does not reflect our diverse population, people are excluded, disenfranchised, and ignored. We're at a time when racist riots have engulfed the country, and less than 1% of all GCSE students study a book by a person of color, and a top candidate to lead the Conservative Party feels that neurodiverse people and people with mental health challenges get too much support. Clearly, our work is more important than ever. This is happening right now. This is happening today on the other side of the river, where people are marching and protesting to decide who is important and who is not. Diversity isn't nice to have, and supporting people with challenges is not something that we should do if we can want to. It's vital for both readers and writers that we see ourselves on the page and we gain insights into each other's lives. At Creative Future, we're constantly working to create opportunities for people who feel they may be left out. These awards are just one part of our work to showcase talent and provide a platform for their voices. I really thank you for coming out tonight to support them, and we hope you can support next year's winners by buying one of the anthologies in the lobby during the interval. I'd like now to hang over to our host and judge, Nina Mingyap Powells, who will introduce our winners along with Judge Wayne Holloway Smith. Please welcome Nina Mingyap Powells.
Thank you so much, Matt, for your really important words. And it's really special and lovely to be here and celebrate with all of you. And on my way in to see the anthology as well on display outside the doors, and to see all of your pieces in print, which is really exciting. And just to say that the judging process was incredibly invigorating, really, really hard. So yeah, I wanted to thank all the other judges as well, some of whom are here. And it was just really great, I think, to be able to increase the number of winners this year, which made our job a little easier and made it all the more special and great to be able to judge the prize. So thank you. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first reader for tonight, and that is Vanita Pati. Vanita Pati penned short stories as a young child and dreamt of being a writer. Founder of Blink Brow Bars, Vanita was awarded an MBE for service to beauty. That's amazing. I didn't know that was a thing. That's very cool. When not tending to her brow bar empire, she can be found crusading on national media and hosting her podcast. Vanita is soon to embark on a master's for creative writing. Let's welcome Vanita.
Thank you. No pressure, first one up, but anyway. I'd like to share an extract from my piece, which is Monobrow. In amongst all these tradesmen, I counted that every fourth shop was a beauty salon. As we drove past, we peered in. Each seemed exactly like the next. Stark lights, rows of chairs, rounded basins, and mirrors. How one made a choice was difficult to decipher. Perhaps it was the seductive names, fair goddess or Bollywood queen, that lured women in for their promised transformation. My mother plumped for Bunty's Best Beauty. When we entered, I felt a blast of air from blades of industrial fans dicing up the heat. My mother motioned to a yawning lady that I required an eyebrow shape by running her fingers along her brow. There was no discussion, but I didn't mind. I was being initiated into womanhood without the fanfare. Obediently, I followed the therapist to where the deed was to be done. I stumbled past rows of ladies indulging in treatments, but they didn't stir. They were on a mission. Booths of women with half-closed curtains revealed frothy clouds of bleach being slapped onto their faces to lighten their skin. Metal knives scraped hot honey wax on their bare legs, and fleshy cheeks moved to the rhythm of side hands chopping. Their eyes closed and nobody flinched. The therapist shuffled me towards a chair. Her only semblance of joy was a flash of a fuchsia of Archimedes peeping from under her apron. She unwound the thread and clenched it between her teeth. The chair jerked backwards, taking me with it, as I was told to stretch skin. I pulled the top of my forehead up, and with the other hand, I stretched the bottom of my eye down. Now thread could travel along the taut skin without catching and cutting. She leant over me, eyes meeting eyes, heart beating over heart. And then she began to pull back and forth. I'd watched my mother have it done enough times. It never looked particularly painful, but my hair was thicker than hers. The thread wrapped around each of my virgin brow hairs, happily anchored to my epidermis. Then mercilessly ripped out by their roots. Ow, 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 vowels dropped silently from my mouth, eyes weeping. The thread continued to lasso and tug each hair out at lightning speed. I warmed to the sensation. The tiny discarded hairs floated across my face and tickled my nose. As ouches turned to sneezes, the lady sensed I was a foreigner. First time? Joy spread to her face as she revealed yellow teeth under pink-painted lips that had marked the thread. I nodded vigorously, grateful for the brief break, but she continued to race to the finish line, the ordeal being over in just 7 minutes. As I looked into the mirror, minor trauma was superseded by wonderment. Where there had been one landing strip above my eyes, there were twin brows, almost as if a caterpillar had morphed into a butterfly with 2 wings. Each wing began just above my nose and gently climbed into a subtle arch, revealing my brown eyes and identifying cheekbones, before gently dipping like the soft curve of a Missouri hill. It wasn't too obvious, but just enough to take me from being a girl into a fully fledged teenager. She then looked at my upper lip, grimaced, and said, "Moustache?" Thank you.
I really enjoyed that. There's the mix of comedy and like slight vulnerability throughout is what kind of caught my eye during the judging process. What I wanted to say in slightly contesting what Nina's already said is, yeah, it is great that the sponsors gave us more so that we were able to expand the prizes and give a few extra prizes. That was good, but that necessitates further arguments amongst the judges on like who gets what prize and at what level, and that really was there were some clear kind of disagreements consistently throughout, and eventually, like any judging panel, you sort of reach a stage of eventual compromise. So like we were just really grateful to get to read and be part of the process of like bringing this all of these works to a wider public, and alongside being able to encourage people that are sort of cracking on and trying to put their work out there. So I just wanted to, even though this isn't in the script, I wanted to also say thanks to Matt and Creative Futures for allowing us to be part of that process. So the first person that I've one clap. That's rough. I didn't intend to get a clap, but when one person started clapping and no one else did, it felt pretty harsh. So the first person that I get to introduce is Kamira Kincaid, who was highly commended for poetry. Kamira is a writer and trade unionist from the West Country, currently based in London. In 2020, she became the first ever care leaver to graduate from Corpus Christi College, Cambridge. She's previously published fiction in the Dublin Review, non-fiction in the Big Issue and on Radio 4, and poetry in the anthology Free Loaves on Fridays. She's currently working on a play and a collection of poems, but I believe she's absent today, so Nina's going to be reading her work. Please welcome back Nina.
Thanks, Wayne. So it's a privilege to get to read Kamira's poem, Mother Frigoli. The term Frigoli delusion refers to a disorder in which a person irrationally believes that several people are, in fact, the same person, one who changes appearance or is in disguise. 1. I arrive in the middle of the night, usually, eyes bright with a bee-sting skim of blood, tight as a bud in the back of my social worker's car. My life packed in bin bags like armoured officers in the 2 empty seats. It's always the same. A cul-de-sac, a residential street, hearse quiet. A slow riot of good old British values. We slide into the drive, my social worker and I, and clamber out under syrup-thick lights to the sight of a woman standing at the door, the exact same woman I was living with the night before, a standard issue foster carer, with her stale assurances and factory-set smile. I've been doing this for a while, you see, and they're all the same, caught in the last years of their middle age, tucked away from a world too bright. Neoliberal acolytes melting day by day into their respectable, Thatcher-sold council houses. Sometimes I wonder whether it's all the same woman, an out-of-work actress rushing from set to set. Eager to get her wage, she occasionally mislays her bald and boring husband. 2. And what must I look like to her? A standard issue foster child, I guess, with threadbare clothes and a £10 haircut, static above the stopped clockwork of my mind. What did they think they'd find? An android, an automaton, a wind-up woman in training made to be improved? Every time I move, it's like they slide a slick pinprick into my spine and root around, trying to reset me. But it never works. How can anyone expect it to? Memories grow like mildew in the crevices of my mind. I remember. Oh, I remember you, Mother Frigoli. as I'm spirited away to the same room I slept in just the night before. I'm not playing your games anymore, your musical chairs, your marbles. I won't be the perfect tabula rasa you felt cheated out of last time. Tomorrow, when the moonlight sours and spills into the sky, I will get up, acid-eyed, come downstairs into the kitchen, make myself toast, and pick up where we left off. Thanks, everyone, on behalf of Kazmira. So the next writer I get to introduce is named Harper Walton. Harper Walton is a writer, editor, and tutor from Bath. They have a master's degree in creative writing from the Paris School of Arts and Culture. Their poetry, fiction, and essays have been featured by 1883 magazine, Whitechapel Gallery, Venice Biennale, and more. They were highly commended for the Manchester Cathedral Poetry Competition, achieved third place in the Brick Lane Bookshop Short Story Prize, and have won 2 Young Poets Network challenges. They've headlined and hosted spoken word events all across the UK. Welcome, Harper.
Well, thank God they increased the number of winners from 12 to 15. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. This is an extract from my story, Diamond and Pearl. I never had a girlhood, and it's too late for me now. I turn 26 in a couple of months. During the day, I work at a video game shop on the high street. You've probably walked past it. All my colleagues call me dude, man, bro. I know that's normal and to be expected when you look like me, but to be perfectly honest, it does sting a little. At night, I play fantasy role-playing games like Baldur's Gate 3. All my life, if there's been an option, I've selected female characters. I enjoy customizing my avatar, making her tall, slim, with long, silky hair and big eyes like a bush baby. I always name myself Jennifer. I don't know why. It's so different from my real name. I've played hundreds of games in my time, lived vicariously through hundreds of women, even ageless elf maidens and busty aliens. Their bra size was that big by default. I didn't make it like that, I promise. I remember playing Pokemon on the Nintendo DS in 2006. At the start, there's a screen showing 2 teenagers, one in a pink miniskirt and the other in blue cargo pants. Are you a boy? It asks. Or are you a girl? That was the first time I ever lied. Do you come here often? A cute boy asks me in the bookshop. Yes, it's my favorite, I type. This is Boyfriend Simulator. I downloaded it last night using a VPN that changed my computer's location to South Korea. The game has not come out yet in Europe. What's your name? The boy asks, fluffy black hair and metal-framed glasses. Jennifer, I reply. I've never been in a relationship, but I'd like one someday, so I thought I'd get some practice. That's a pretty name. What's your favorite book? I think back to secondary school. The Great Gatsby, I type. I don't tell the boy that it's the last book I read. Maybe I should have chosen the coffee shop meet-cute scenario instead. Last night I had a dream. I'm blowing out 8 candles on a Victoria sponge, and my family is singing Happy Birthday, dear Jennifer, and I'm wearing a yellow and white gingham dress and jelly sandals, and then time jumps forward 18 years, and I'm still working at the video game shop on the high street, except now all my co-workers are nervous around me, and I overhear them whispering in the staff room about how they have a crush on me, and who's going to be the first one to ask me out. But then I wake up before any of them has a chance to. I log on to an AI image creator and prompt it to make a photorealistic portrait of a teenage girl. I keep refreshing the page until I find one that vaguely resembles me. but it's still not good enough. I find another service that allows me to upload a photo of myself, and then I can change my age, race, gender, anything. When the image has fully rendered, I almost cry, but no tears come out because I haven't been able to cry since I was a child. I'm not sure why. She looks quite pretty, this teenage girl version of me. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Next up, we've got the winner of the Bronze Award for Creative Nonfiction, which is Kalia Dunstan. Kalia has had decades of experience in communications and has written for high-profile public and private bodies globally. Intimidating. She has a love of melding the real and the allegorical in her creative work and lives with her husband near where the River Tay flows into the North Sea in Dundee, Scotland. Please welcome her up.
This is an extract from my non-fiction work, Fox and Me. The ultrasound gel spreads cold over my breast. A sonographer is on my right, and a nurse is holding my hand and murmuring comfort on my left. The sonographer says, "Just some cysts. Look, 2 pale oblongs with dark in the middle. That's why your breast is painful." Then the other breast. He hesitates, rubs the same area, murmurs something. The nurse's activity explodes, needles in my breast. I say, "Stop, what are you doing?" He shows me a dark thing in between the tissue, like the inside of a Smartie. It's smaller, jagged. He asks, "Is my breast numb enough, yes or no?" An incision, a rough wrenching of tissue, a pump sucking tissue out. He angles it differently, as if he is digging for crustaceans in sea mud. He pumps 5 times. When my sister came to visit, we watched 3 foxes bask in the summer light, red coats, muscles spread. We saw them from the tall places in our house, the tower and the attic. My sister left and has not come back for a very long time. She is on the other side of the world. When she sleeps, I am awake. For years, the sensor light above our front door was broken. We finally get it fixed and turn it on. In autumn, I am told I have a lump filled with cancer. I am told I am young, so that is a good thing. I don't cry instantly. I ask a litany of questions, clear as water, then burst. The nurse says she is surprised I didn't cry sooner because when you cry, things unravel. That's why. I cry with my husband. I cry on FaceTime to my family across the world. My sister's eyes squint. Her head falls to the side just a little, and her lips turn down. I've never touched fox fur. It's supposed to be like soft, fluffy silk. That's why people wanted the foxes around their collars to feel it up close. It's 3 a.m. I turn over and over like a tumble dryer on all night. I get up, have a drink. The sensor light switches on, times for 20 seconds, then off. Something is outside, passing by. I drive myself to my MRI appointment, lie in a tube with my breasts hanging like passion fruit, arms above my head. I hear buzzers and ringing like a vintage internet connection. I am strung up by the arms but unable to move. They inject a dye into my body and I feel sick, sweaty, hot. I hold on for bare life or I will need to do it all over again. I think of a field of grass in summer. There are yellow flowers with petals lit up by the sun. Thank you.
you so much, Kalia. So Lara May Simpson, our bronze poetry winner, is a North Yorkshire-born, London-based poet, writer and editor. Their poems have been published by the Poetry Society, 14 Poems, Queerlings and more, and their essays and articles will appear in essays and articles appear in Labaton and Pomegranate magazine, among others. They were literature editor at Strand magazine, and they're currently poetry editor at Fire magazine and intern at Sinister Wisdom. They are part of the writing squad. Welcome, Lara.
Hi everyone. I'm going to read my poem, Graduation Dinner. After Chen Chen. We're at pho, because it's your mother's favourite. We pray the veggie menu will please my dad enough. Both our parents are here, and my brother, and you're an only child, but you have lesbian nans, whose presence makes us hungrier. I'm thankful we're not sitting together. I can't grab your hand under the table, only thumb the fabric of my suit trousers your mother raised an eyebrow at earlier. Dutiful daughters, we launch into stories about how we have lived together for over 2 years and absolutely never shared a room. Not even a single bed in student halls. You've never had to move your belongings to the living room to make it yours for a morning as your mother's eyes rove each corner, like they're doing now at your nans winking at us. Your parents are chomping down accusations. My brother is trying not to laugh. Your father waits for the meatiest dish, while my dad shifts in his chair. We need more cocktails. More tales, half-truths and lies. We need to not talk about us. This whole dinner is about us, but let's turn it into anything else. My brother whispers something to me and I stomp on his foot and smile, hoping there's no cabbage in my teeth. This is delicious. Mms across the board, except my dad. I will say sorry many times to him later, and to Nans, and to you. Not this you, though. This version might be real, but it's not the right you. Not the one I'm kissing in robes and photos some people at this table will never see. Not the you who booked yet another flight to the city we dream about moving to. If your mother asks about your Berlin internship, can I say I'm coming? Can I say we're getting a studio? Can I say we might get married one day and I hate how she looks at me like I'm a dish she didn't order, that I'm 1 second from tearing off your dress like an overpriced diploma? When we threw our hats in the air today, I thought I glimpsed a tear in your eye. Maybe next time, the family will see how far we've come with pride.
Thanks very much. So next up, we've got Melanie Benham. Melanie's a writer and poet in Liverpool who explores how place impacts who we are and how families do and undo harm. Melanie has recently been selected as a New Northern Poet 2024. In the last 2 years, she was shortlisted for the Bridport Poetry Prize. That's a big one, actually, isn't it? And highly commended in the Manchester Poetry Prize. Please welcome her to the stage.
Thank you. Hearing about yourself feels like I'm at my own funeral. Bungalow. Never enough chairs in the bungalow for us grandchildren to sit. We claw air, chase younger cousins with a back scratcher around her hospital bed. Its fire truck hulk. The council didn't consider how much carpet it swallows. Mum sighs at the shag pile she fitted to stop Nan dropping to the fluid balloons of her knees after Mass to rub the lino raw. Friday night, Nan pulls globs of batter from the body of the fish for me, foam in a tide at the corners of her mouth. In a blitz back hardback, Mum says she mistakes for her photo album. Nan shows me smiling girls, and beneath, radium eats their bone, but they were good Catholic girls who were raised not to challenge authority. My body has started to buck against dungarees swimming in front of lads. Sunday afternoons slow to oven time. I strain when Uncle Terry tickles under my arms, upends me to measure the lengthening dinosaur bridge of my spine. From behind the paper, Mum's outrage. Netherley was designed to cordon the poor, cheeky bastard. Never been north of bloody Bristol. At school last year, Miss asked us to write about the olden days. Nan pushed batter into my waiting left hand as I inked her stories into my exercise book with my right. She told me about walking into the bowl of the land, field followed field, after her cleaning shift at the Liver building. How in winter the sun was still settled like a yoke, too far away to warm her. How no bus route stretched this far. And how she would flush the soil from the bottom of her boots in the yard before she stepped inside to warm porridge for the youngest. Her eyes globing, wet, when I paused between sentences. In careful, joined-up writing, I stored her story about Maud, who sold flowers from her cottage wall on the end before the estate was finished. All these towers, girl, didn't they just eat up the last of that farmland like a greedy little kid? On a rally bike, I toured the shops. Awnings like exhausted eyelids. A Chippy, Bookies, Jackson and Cantor, for if your dad's lucky enough to slip through scaffold. When my name sails the length of the street, I ride back to Mum to take the weight of a second-hand table. Your uncle couldn't get off his arse. He's the doting son on pension day, all right. She's hardly sleeping now he's here, using her lecky all day and night. We poodle-step bollards, potholes, dog shit in the underpass to Nan's door. When there's visitors now, at least your Nan can reach her teeth. She keeps a set in bleach. Only bothers putting them in for a custard cream from the broken biscuits Eddie the bag serves door to door. A knock for me. Sarah has hair the colour of a pound coin. Uncle Terry is stationed at Nan's window ledge, his ciggy a weather vane, pointing south. She's filled out quick. Together we thrill from wall to wall. Each week her thighs thicken and our Alessi jumpers tempt with new boobs as we run from lads. Give us a suck of them, girl. Gravel tripped, her knee bursts open like freshly slit meat before Mum drowns it in the pan. Back at Nan's, I refuse the lamb. Ungrateful, these kids. Uncle Terry between drags. Who does she think she is, little Hodgie? The adults laugh. At the library the next Saturday, I read, as a tenant in the 1970s, Mr. Hodkinson endured appalling conditions in flats in Britage Brow, went on hunger strike to draw attention to his neighbour's plight. On Sunday, everyone else is stationed at the roast. Uncle Terry curls his finger. A sea anemone at me from Nan's bedroom doorway pulls the curtains to dusk. Not right having every Tom, Dick or Harry pervin in, with a wink. Look what I've got at. He snatches my nose too hard. Close your eyes. I watch him reach for Nan's pillow before he warns again. Then, on your knees, and I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melanie. Next up, we have Shwetha Bai. Shwetha Bai is a student, creative writer, and freelance journalist. She's currently pursuing her master's in creative writing at the University of Leeds. She primarily writes poetry and prose that centres around Indian culture with elements of magical realism. And she's currently working on a short story that explores womanhood in a domestic Indian household. Welcome, Shwetha.
Hi everyone. It's a great honor to be here, so thank you for having me. I'm going to be reading an excerpt from Flowers Don't Wither, Portraits Don't Bleed. I don't watch the Mala Idol. I don't sit in the puja. I sit in my room. I walks in her heavy footsteps, her crooked walk, like a rocking chair that would run over your toes with one wrong move. Chennai Marathi is different from Mumbai Marathi. In Chennai, we call grandmother's eye. She stands 3 feet away, her mala protected from the blood seeping through me. I'm a deer, cornered by a pride. But I also find comfort in the familiarity of being afraid, because I know that it will somehow wear away. Stand there, don't touch anything, don't move. I don't want to keep purifying things over and over, I says. And me sprays tulsi water on the furniture, my clothes, the chair, the bathroom door. What a time the stars have picked, she sighs, like the gods have betrayed her. You are going to listen to me. If you say I won't do this, next my hands will show how to obey. Next, skin your back, I will. Now you'll stay in this room for the next 30 days, 40 days? Yeah, I think that will work. Don't touch anything in the room. I'll tell me to lay the jute mat in the corner. Sleep there. How do I go to the bathroom? Just use the one here. I don't want to eat a raw egg. What did I tell you about obeying, Kutima? But it doesn't matter. No non-veg during the fast anyways. Look at her smiling, so happy that you escaped. She teases me. She laughs and I smile, my eyes a little red. Kutima, an epithet that doesn't feel endearing anymore. It's the deer's last struggle before the pride tears it apart. A sliver of false hope. I look at me, but she looks away. She stands next to I, quiet. When I finally leaves, me comes close and holds my hand. Me, what if she sees? You're not sullied, just know that. She is the Dalitar. Me, but the Ayappa Mala? It's unfortunate that the first time we've become is now, but that witch is making this twice as hard. When I became, my mother had none of these medieval practices. Sure, we took head baths and didn't enter the puja room, but this is too much. After she goes to sleep, you come and sleep on the bed. I lock the door. I still want to be Sami. I want to go to Sabarimala temple. You can go when you're 50, when you won't bleed anymore. It's not that far along. Now don't cry. For the next few days, I sleep on the jute mat. The jute hair scratches my skin, and I lie awake, staring into the dark most nights. I see the shadows crawling underneath the bed, twisting and twisting. Children who don't sleep at night are eaten up. I hear them whisper. I turn to the other side and scrunch my eyes until I fall asleep. I smell the dal and rice before I see them. I slides a steel plate and spoon towards me. She comes close enough to serve, but not to touch. The ladle is silver. She holds it above the plate and lets the dal drop. It splatters. Make a hole in the middle of the rice. Can't you see the dal is flying everywhere? I says. I do as she says, but the rice fork breaks and the dal spills out like molten fire out of a volcano. I sucks her teeth. I wash my plate in the bathroom and return to my corner. My eyes close in boredom, but I would never reach for the books on the shelf. Books are Goddess Saraswati, and I can't risk sullying them. I ask me if I can use her phone. You'll get a beating if I finds out, me whispers. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Next up, I've just noticed that we, I think, have the same trainers on. Yeah, which I was only just clocked it. Francis Xavier Machibi is a poet of Ugandan heritage from North London. He's an alumnus of the Barbican Young Poets, the Roundhouse Poetry Collective, and the Obsidian Foundation. He was a recipient of an Eric Gregory Award in 2024, which I also judged, so I already know your work a bit. It wasn't just me, though. And it wasn't because we had the same trainers, because I didn't know that from his poems appear or are forthcoming with Ink, Sweat and Tears, Under the Radar, Propel, Magma, Poetry Wales, Poetry London, Broken Sleep Books, and Flipside Publishing. Please welcome them up to the stage.
Yeah, thanks Wayne, and thanks Nina and Creative Future for everything. Yeah, it's moments like this that are really validating, I guess, overall. Right, don't be scared when I say this. I'm gonna need some audience participation. Is that cool? All right, cool, sweet. When I hold my hand out, I'm just gonna ask you to say brown as in. So brown as in. So let's test that. Sweet, cool. This is Dig Up Black Boy Bones from Brown. Dig up black boy bones from Brown. Cell. He is born into damp overalls. Finds it no coincidence they are colored papaya, as pelicans beak, as dawn. Dig up black boy bones from Brown. Earth. Aubergine creeps into his mama's saucepans. Its skin wears off into the stew. Still, he feels the soiled flesh, as if it drips blood violet on his buds, molds his tongue to marsh. This is Mama's tongue, morning from her gardens, at the aubergine light of dusk. Dig up black boy bones from Brown. Sewage. On his windowsill, a small mass of blue bottles amalgamate, punch drunk by dew. A frosted rose remains untouched by bugs, is left to frost further. He hasn't been hugged today. It's been too long to touch. Dig up black boy bones from Brown. Earth. Sewage. Cells of another black boy's skin. Pick up his wrist. Cut it. Clean. Count how many rings it holds.
Thank you so much. There's also been some really great outfits tonight, which has been very cool. The next writer will be Sophia Khan. Sophia Khan is a writer and teacher based in Harrow. She is a member of Rewrite and has previously been published in Rewrite Reads, as well as the Decolonial Passage. In 2023, she was longlisted for the Brick Lane Bookshop Short Story Prize. Welcome, Sophia.
Good evening. I wish this piece involved some audience participation. Sadly, it doesn't. It's called Prayers. I knew it was a risk to wear my Gucci loafers, but I wore them anyway. They smelt so good when I took them out of the box. The softness of the black velvet with the shiny wetness of the leather sole. Italian made, so far from where I lived. But it was Eid and I wanted to look sharp, so I slipped them on and walked to the mosque in Harrow. No matter that the pavement was covered in greasy chicken bones and pigeon shit, it felt good to be out. The oud on my crisp kurta floated around me in the warm wind. I caught the eyes of other worshippers as they ambled along Station Road, talking in Urdu, Bengali, Somali and Arabic, all hotly peppered with smatterings of English. 2 male police officers hovered by the entrance, looking slightly bored, giving the occasional nod to the odd brother and sister that sidled through the doors. One of them nodded at me, and I nodded back in recognition. They were always here whenever it was Eid or there was a special talk by a well-known imam. I got there for the early prayer, as I knew it would be heaving later. I thought of Alia and the children. In a couple of years, they would be old enough to accompany me. Whenever I saw other fathers bringing their children to the mosque, it was something I yearned for, stirring something deep and primal within me. I took off my loafers and placed them in a small cubbyhole above the shoe rack on the left, tucking them right to the back. There was already an array of trainers, flip-flops, chappals, butter sandals and office shoes splayed out across the marble floor. I walked into the men's prayer hall and sat down next to one of the brothers. He was an older man, rocking gently back and forth, legs crossed like a Buddha as he recited La ilaha illallah as each bead on the tasbih rolled between his thumb and forefinger. There was a beautiful silence in the hall, occasionally punctuated by the sound of the microphone being tested, absorbing the sporadic coughs of the imam. I had fasted throughout Ramadan and I kept thinking about the puri and halwa I was going to eat when I got home. The prayer hall filled up rapidly and the prayers began. I prostrated, knelt and closed my eyes as my forehead touched the ground. Once prayer was over, I spoke to a couple of guys I knew who lived a couple of roads away from me and then said my goodbyes. But when I left the hall and went to get my shoes, they weren't in the cubbyhole. I checked and checked again, and then started looking in all the others, the faint smell of dog shit invading my nostrils. A wave of panic rose. I stood by as I watched the other brothers come out and put their shoes on, examining each pair that was put on. Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Rose Kigwana. I'm the CEO of Creative Future, and I've come here to tell you that we have a very short interval now, so 10 minutes, and we'll see you back here at 8:35. So we'll see you here in a minute. Thank you.
We don't need no words. for the old country folks. I went to New York, got slick, got my hair laid. I was cool. I was cool. But I had no groove. No groove. I had no groove. But here it comes. But now, fly on, baby. 'Cause I get it. Fly on, baby. You got it. Dig. You got it now. Fly on. Fly on, sisters. someone's on the phone, 3 o'clock in the morning, yeah, talking about how she can make it right, yeah. Happiness is when you really feel good about somebody. There's nothing wrong being in love with someone, yeah. Oh, baby, love and happiness. Love and happiness. Oh. I'll be good to you. We'll be together. Yeah. To see each other walk away with victory. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, baby, love and happiness. Oh, yeah. Love and happiness. Oh. Make you do right, and love will make you do wrong, and make you come home early, make you stay out all night long. Oh, love. Wait a minute. Let me tell you. Happiness and peace is getting more and more
Hello, if you could take your seats, we will restart in a couple of minutes.
I was born and raised in the ghetto. I was born and raised in the ghetto. I'm the woman of the ghetto. Listen to me, legislator. How do you raise your kids in the ghetto? How do you raise your kids in the ghetto? Feed one child and starve another. Tell me, legislator. Now, how do you make your bread in the ghetto? How do you make your bread in the ghetto? Raked from the souls of the dead in the ghetto. Tell me, legislator. Break free, black me. I am the woman of the ghetto. Strong, true, my eyes ain't blue. I am the woman of the ghetto. Chain, chicka, chain, 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 chicka, chain, 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 gang, 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 gang.
Hello, welcome back. So it's my pleasure to introduce one of our judges, Nina Mingya Powles. Nina Mingya Powles is a writer and poet from Aotearoa, New Zealand. She's the author of several poetry pamphlets, zines, and poetry books. Most recently, Magnolia from Seraph Press, and Tiny Moons, A Year of Eating in Shanghai from the Emma Press. And also a collection of essays, Small Bodies of Water, which came out from Canongate. She writes a monthly e-newsletter on food and memory titled Crispy Noodles, and Slipstitch, a new chapbook of poems and collages, will be published by Guillemot Press in October, which is now. Is it out? Ooh, it's out. Please welcome Nina.
Thanks so much, Matt. It's been really, really cool to listen to all of you read your work, and I also feel lucky to get to share something of mine, I guess. This is a poem from Slipstitch. Dear Blue, dear thread tails, dear encased membrane, dear warp and weft of liquid memory, dear plate glass islands of noon shadow, penciled outline of a coming heat wave, reconfigured clouds mid-dream of inner city smog, hot blue-green haloed figurine, dear new fault lines pressed open, dear blue nerves and their woven endings, dear blue, dear cotton imprint of a droplet, dear river encased in snow, dear tender markings of a seed pod, dear brushed sea foam, dear knotted current, lost inky ballpoint, field note, cracked silken hemisphere, frozen algal bloom, late winter swirling weather system, dear subterranean fernery of dreams, dear language of cloud fragments I used to know. Thank you.
So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Wayne Holloway Smith. So Wayne has published two collections, Alaram, Blood Axe 2017, and Love Minus Love, Blood Axe 2020, which was shortlisted for the T.S. Eliot Prize. He is the winner of the 2018 National Poetry Competition and the 2016 Geoffrey Diarma Prize. He edits the poetry review. Wayne.
I feel like we've already met. I was thinking during the break of something that Matt said to start with, which was about all the stuff that's going on across the bridge there, and also in relation to this event, how important language is, right? Because during my break, which we all shared, but I went outside and smoked a cigarette, I read this in The Guardian. Thousands of, I'm only going to read an extract, thank God. He's like, oh, fucking hell. He was supposed to get up and read a poem of his, and then he just got up and read a Guardian article. I'm not actually going to do that. So thousands of Tommy Robinson supporters have gathered in central London for a protest which the political activist will miss after he was remanded into custody by police. When did Tommy Robinson start being called by The Guardian a political activist? This is why, they should just call him what he is, dickhead, right? But the thing is about it, like how language, and we've seen this with like the way that Palestine's being written about as well, is like it's very manipulated, isn't it? And so it's really interesting and good to be here and hear people writing with nuance, right? Segueing into my brilliant poem. I'm not allowed to read any new poems because I'm under contract by a publisher not to. So this is from a thing that I put out during lockdown. And like how in lockdown about 500,000 people in the country got broken up with? That happened to me. So, yeah, you could say, oh. Yeah, that's fine. No, so I don't want your pity. There's this other thing, alongside that, when I was writing stuff, I heard this thing about Embankment Station, which is just over there, right? Which is the only station in the whole of London that still has the analogue voice for Mind the Gap. And the guy died, and his wife, I heard, goes there every day, like just to hear his voice. And I was thinking, well, my ex ain't going to do that for me if I pop my clogs now. And in want of being more articulate, I called this tube voice man. And my whole body is a group of sudden musicians striking up a tune of logging. Not all bad, you see. With snow in your hair, snow in my eyes, trumpet solo, cymbal, my fright growing thinner, its lurid reflection on the insides of my eyelids, and keep seeing the sad wife of a dead man, cymbal crash, mandolin, my heart. We know she is making her way, her daily pilgrimage to Embankment Station, snow, rain, and today I think I know what it's like, fading like he did. Know the spilling of milk, the gone understanding at the dinner table, flowers sunk at the balcony door, strings eking out a little more emotion at this point. To hear him again, mind the gap please. The whole world is analog, look, I love you. I just need a hook, a use for this body and its band of music, a destination for people to arrive at. How many minor or major injuries did he present in this inclement weather? 3 violins, a soft tuba, an accordion sliding through my body on its journey over Hungerford Bridge, the pea green, sad, happy song of being alive. Thank you.
Whew. Thank you so much, Wayne. To go back to our writers, the last bunch, the next one will be Kira McVeigh. And Kira McVeigh is a freelance writer with bylines in the Irish Times, Image Magazine, and Woman and Home. She was a finalist in the 2023 Writers and Artists Working Class Writers Prize and published in 2022's 100 Voices, an anthology of women's writing. She won the 2018 Women's Words Manchester Writing Competition and was longlisted for the 2015 Fish Publishing Memoir Prize. Kira is currently working on her first full-length manuscript, a collection of creative nonfiction titled Narrow Waters. Welcome, Kira.
So nice, guys. This excerpt is from a longer piece called A Space That Speaks. I am in the back seat of a school friend's car. Her mother is driving, and we are being taken to the cinema for a birthday treat. I'm holding a tiny, dark eyelash in my hand, and my friend tells me that eyelashes are magic, good for one wish. I roll the lash between my forefinger and thumb, shuts my eyes as she directs, and make a forgotten wish. Then I blow it off my finger with a puff, blowing the wish into the air, the lash falling amid the crumbs and dust of the car's floor, like a doomed sycamore flyer. But the wish takes flight, takes life, becomes real. Such power in my own hands, in my own eyes. Like the early sky woman falling to earth, or an ancient goddess pulling the tides from her ears and the ground from the skin of her thighs, hair like a kelp forest. I have the power to make anything so, from the dark fans against my cheeks. I am 8 years old. The gaps along my eyelids do not take long to appear. The dark lash lines are interrupted by exposed patches of skin, like the cracked earth of a lake in drought. The gaps change the composition of my face in a way that is subtle and unsettling, not obvious. My mother peers into my face, but cannot tell what is different, and I wriggle away under her scrutiny. It is a teacher who grasps the nettle, calling me out of the classroom into a side room where she sits me down at a desk and asks to look at my eyes. I drop my forehead onto the table and refuse to lift my head. I am catatonic with shame. After several minutes of silence, she lets me return to the classroom. Later that evening at the dinner table, my mother demands to know what is happening. She comes close to my face, inspecting my eyes. My father is incredulous. Never heard of such a thing, he says. He continues eating, looking at me sideways, like a hen. I fail to answer for my perversion. Doesn't it hurt? My mother asks sadly. At 8 years old, I am not able to explain that it is the hurting that I like. Greek, trichos, hair. Telin, to pull out. Mania, abnormality, obsession, compulsion, fixation, fascination. My madness has a word. Trichotillomania, hair pulling, a condition associated with obsessive compulsive disorders and a response to depression, anxiety, and stress. It is not a habit, like nail biting, or a form of self-harm, like cutting. It is a small act of violence against oneself that feels good. Doesn't it hurt? It is the hurting that I like. After each pulling session, I examine my eyes in a mirror, holding my face close to the light so I can see the smooth-skinned gaps in the dark lash line. Something magical about lashes, the way they erupt like mushrooms from the skin's surface. But the lashes themselves are not the interesting part. It's the gaps in between. White, like sliced new potato. Tender, like ground newly torn up. A raw, exposed space that speaks. That's where the madness cannot be hidden anymore. Where the revelation is made. Where the turmoil leaks like magma. And a tiny white flag waves. Over here. Here is the place where I need help. Thank you.
Thanks. I really enjoyed that. So next up, we've got Ibrahim Babatunde Ibrahim, a Nigerian writer and editor currently based in the UK. He won the 2022 Kwamo Writers' Prize and has been selected for the 2024 Best Small Fictions Anthology. He's been, over the last 2 years, a finalist for the Faber Children's Fab Prize, the Miles Morland Writing Scholarship, Masters Review Anthology Prize, and twice for the Moon City Short Fiction Award. Please welcome him up to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm reading from my short story titled Alade Must Die. Since Alade bent down to look between his legs at Ajay Market, home has shut its doors to us in a foreign land. We're marooned in an afternoon that has refused to give way to night, banished to exist upside down as captured in his between-the-leg gaze. Only 10 seasons ago, we were nestled in our resting place beneath Ajay Market, peacefully couched in for more than 10 moons without seeing the sun. This was our world, brimming with films darker than Suits, everything blacker than any human has ever seen. If not for Roots, why would we be here? Trapped, melting away each day, feigning marriage with this beautiful woman when we know not how to use our borrowed penis. No one, not even Ashake, who put Alade to the outrageous task, could have guessed what Alade was going to do when he strolled into the market that fateful afternoon. But from the moment Seahead spotted his bearded face, Hairhead recognized his breathing pattern. Just to confirm it was him, Talkhead whispered his name into the wind. He stopped and looked around. It was him all right. Humans would piss themselves if they saw us in our true form, but who says having 3 heads doesn't have its advantages? We had identified this person, only we didn't know he was capable of what we knew he had vowed to do. Alade did never do well, whose only chance of marrying the village belle lay in attempting a dare that had never been done since time began. You see, the herd's primary aim is to pin everything to itself. This is why many from our world must come to the surface sometimes. Those with sprouted roots have become one with the earth and can no longer have disgrace. The only way around it is to seek the sun at the slightest sign of a sprout. For some, it's every other moon. For others, they can nestle for hundreds of seasons without any threat of roots. Many had nestled so deeply they were overtaken by roots before they knew it, never to see the sun again. We nestled deep, but never that deep. Were 3 heads, one with an eye at the center of its face, one with a mouth in place of the eye, and one with 2 ears side by side, shooting from one neck. But while Seahead and Talkhead could be idle for seasons, Hairhead was endlessly picking up sounds from above and around us. The humans are all useless gossips and endless bickerers, but Hairhead listened anyway. When we hit the surface of Ajay, Seahead will connect faces to the voices, and Talkhead will gossip and bicker like them with other humans interested. It was during one of the sound-picking moments that Hairhead heard the ridiculous exchange. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim. Next up, we have the gold poetry winner, Rona Law. Rona Law is a queer, neurodivergent poet and acupuncturist. Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. Based in London. Her work appears or is forthcoming in Magma, the Massachusetts Review, and A.N.M. Emily, Honey Literary, 14 poems and more. Her speculative visual poetry has been exhibited at the Royal Festival Hall, this building. She's been supported by Tin House, Kundiman, and South Bank Centre's New Poets Collective. Please welcome Rona.
Hello. This is called Karst. Karst. Pigs wander under apartment buildings as boys jump nude into the Maisi River and my aunts spit fish bones over their shoulders. Flies descend into the smell of chili peppers and coal dust. Everyone sweats. Dad proclaims, "In this weather, watermelon saves me from sin." A squatting cousin passes a lighter under a trapped grasshopper, and the insect shoots to the lid of its cage. Grandmother climbs out the window, watering can in hand. In the distance, excavators throb mechanical arms as mountains wane, ochre innards torn open. Monstrous tooth marks face the town. Thank you.
Thanks loads. Next up, we've got the winner of the Platinum Award for Creative Nonfiction. Last year, I confessed that I always thought that gold was like higher than platinum. I know gold always felt like, you don't, the Olympics, no one gets like a platinum medal, do they? So in my head, I always thought like gold was the highest. And then it wasn't until like I listened to Will Smith's Getting Jiggy with It that I realized that platinum was actually the highest accolade. So congratulations. Lewis Bailey is currently working on his debut novel, The Night Run, an eco-memoir which springs from his nightly habit of running around the Dark Peak in Derbyshire and explores the links between night running and the supernatural, traverses the landscapes of threat, vulnerability and survival. Please welcome him up to read from his work.
Hi everyone, thank you. So this is an extract called The Night Jar, and it's taken from The Night Run, which is a memoir about shape-shifting and running and darkness and all the joys and fear of the nocturnal realm. The Night Jar. It's late afternoon and I'm running the circumference of Derwent Reservoir in the Peak District. It's my first run in the hills since surgery. Weeks of being immobilised have made jelly of my limbs. I've missed not being able to get out and struggled with the enforced bed rest. For the last little while, my arms have been pinned to my side, leaving me looking and feeling like a cardboard marionette, unable to stretch or lift anything heavier than a teacup. Instead, in the fashion of a Victorian consumptive, I've been swaddled in bandages and gauze, with a drain bag either side, the tubing suckled to each armpit like a leech. My legs are stiff and my hands jut out awkwardly, willing my body forward with each downturned fist. I hit the switchbacks north of the reservoir just as the sun is setting. Emboldened by the enveloping darkness, I take my shirt off and reveal my newly healed chest for the first time. The sutures are still visible. Little snatches of cotton peer out from underneath each nipple, which have been stitched and pulled tight like a purse. I'm about to enter the edge of the moor when I hear it, a gentle rumble coming from behind me. I do an about turn and retrace my steps to the tree line. It starts up again, low-pitched and guttural, yet also robotic and slightly out of range, between notes, between places, and somehow not of this realm. The sun intensifies and the day explodes into a kaleidoscope of colours, a final burst before the ushering in of the night. But before that dusk, that twilight place where the last of the light makes silhouettes of the silent things. The noise persists, dissonant, mechanical. I've not heard this sound before and don't have anything resplendent enough to compare it to. Just the slow grind of metal on metal, the creak of an old door. It sounds like a verbal tick, an ellipsis, or thoughtful pause, throaty and expectant. My mind attempts to fill the spaces left by the limits of what I think I can see and hear. It sounds like a stalled transmission. No, a reaching out, unable to connect. It isn't a loud sound, yet it somehow manages to permeate the woods and the still summertime air. Whatever's making this sound has a ventriloquist's flair for misdirection. Eventually, I'm able to pinpoint it to a single tree. It's dark now. I sense movement, but can't decipher what I'm looking at. A bird? Lizard? A piece of fern or bark? Scratching and shadows. I feel like I've lost my senses. If only like a telegraph operator, I could translate its signal, the dots and dashes of its code, the urgency of its call. I imagine it in human form, shape-shifting into a huddle of throat singers, summoning spirits or taming wild animals into deep sleep. Later, I learn its name. Thank you.
Thank you. That was mesmerizing. Next up, we have the Platinum Fiction winner, so the overall fiction winner, Patrick Cash. Patrick is a British-Irish writer living in London. He was one of the winners of the Felicity Bryan New Voices 2024 programme for his debut novel, Fireworks. His short fiction has been published in the London Magazine and Fictionable and long listed for the Desperate Literature Prize 2024, and he was part of the London Library's Emerging Writers Programme for prose fiction, working on a short story collection, Nightlife, for which he was also mentored by Alan Hollinghurst. Welcome, Patrick.
Hello. I had a glass of wine for the stage nerves earlier, and then I ended up having a second, so I hope this is okay. But in all seriousness, thank you very much to Creative Future and to the judges. This is a real kind of accolade on the writing path. So this is a short story called Kai, which stems from a longer novel that I'm working on. Kai was a drug dealer who wore hearing aids. He mostly sold pills, a bit of coke, and he was usually in the Prince of Thieves on weekend nights. Whenever I picked up from him, he led me across the road to an alleyway behind a university building. He'd ask me what club I was going to, and I'd invite him out politeness, but he'd always have another party. I found out we were the same age. What A-levels are you doing? I asked. Fox School, he said. I once picked up from him behind Bristol Hall, and his face was smashed up. Angry red scabs over his nose and jaw, half a front tooth missing. He didn't mention it, and I was too shocked to ask. We talked about a DJ at Fekla. Kai was really into music. He said sometimes he took out his hearing aids and just let the bass flow through him. I was at a house party, and Kai turned up when most people had left. He'd had his tooth capped. We smoked in the can-strewn living room, and he offered me a pill. I had a Saturday job, and I should have said no, but I wanted to join him. After 20 minutes, we concluded the pills must be duds, and Kai said maybe we should try and crash. He went wandering through the house and found some sheets in an airing cupboard. 2 people were having sex upstairs, he said. He turned off the light and we lay down. I realised the pills weren't duds. I was very aware of Kai's body next to me. His hand found mine in the dark and pulled me to him. We kissed for a while before we heard a creak above us. He whispered we should lock ourselves in the bathroom. He turned on the shower and unhooked his hearing aids, carefully laying them on the cistern. "Gonna lip read," he said. After, we lay damp-haired on the sofa. I woke with him holding my hand to his chest. We hung out cautiously. He introduced me to his skater friends down the green as a mate. I often saw evidence of his anger. He shouted at a security guard in Tesco, "What you fucking following me for?" He almost started a fight on the bus, telling a couple of kids to get some fucking earphones for their crap music. He offered little about himself, but asked me many questions. He wanted to know what A-levels I was doing, what universities I was considering. "You should go for Cambridge," he said, and I laughed. I told him about my mum being ill, my little brother going off the rails. I skipped lessons on a grey April afternoon to meet him on Brandon Hill, and we climbed Cabot Tower. At the top, we could see all of Bristol. He pointed, and I stood near him to follow his line of sight. His dad was a priest, he said. That was his church. Thank you.
Thanks very much. That was really good. You know, like when sometimes you hear something and you're just like, that's probably going to be published, isn't it? You know what I mean? You see, that's probably going to go the distance. So last then is Platinum Award for Poetry. Maya Little is a writer and theatre director. Her writing has appeared in The Rambling and Oxford Review of Books, amongst others. And she was Roundhouse Poetry Collective member in 2023-24. They've had a big outing tonight, haven't they? The Roundhouse. She's a regular workshop facilitator at the Oxford Poetry Library and Fusion Arts. Please welcome Maya up.
Hello. This is this is Child of Hale. Once upon a time there was a giant, a real giant, my dad says. We come from Halebank, a place that isn't there anymore. When we go back to where the bank isn't, my father points to all the places he used to be young, but they're gone, sweated away with the newspaper smell of chips. Now there is just the chemical horizon of the power station. It works through the night, sending the townspeople away, saying, "I am just as real as you are," but no one believes it. My father's giant is so real, there is a portrait of him in an Oxford college. Sorry. So real, there is a portrait of him in an Oxford college. The power station is 73 times as high as the giant. If the giant was 9'3", how tall is my father? In the portrait, there are people whispering over the giant's shoulders, saying, "What a relief he is here." If they lied in the portrait, how tall is my father? In a year, 43 people leave the power station. My father is reading a map in the rain. If the power station closes, how tall is my father? Thank you.
So sadly, we've come to the end of the evening. I've been blown away by the writing and also the confidence of all the reading that we've had here tonight from all the winners. It's fantastic. I think they all deserve another round of applause. thank you. I just want to say a massive, huge thank you to Nina and Wayne for being the judges for 2 years, and also for presenting and introducing everyone tonight. So thank you very much. Also, a thank you to Cash and the South Bank team for making this event happen, and to the Creative Future team for making it happen as well. But a very big special thank you to my colleague Matt, who has been fundamental in making this evening happen, but also what the Creative Future Writers Award is. So I just want to say thank you to all those people, but Matt as well. So that's it. That's it. Thank you, everyone.